15 horse Merc, trying to figure out why it has no spark. So what I ended up doing is it's an aftermarket, I think, stator. I'm not sure what the specifications are supposed to be, but I'm putting the regular manual information. I'm going to use that. So let's see what we got. All right, so book value is for the black stator, which has 3 wires, black, black and white, and black and yellow. In this case, we've got the one on the engine, and it has the ground wire attached, and then we have a black and yellow, kind of greenish, and then a black and white. So we're going to follow the same color codes in the book. And I've got my my meter here that I use for Mercury. Primarily it is the factory meter, analog, and the first test says, and that scale is R times 1, I should read 120 to 180. So I need to make sure my meter's zeroed. Okay, and it is. So then we're going to put the red lead goes to the black and white wire, and then the black lead goes to ground. So I'm going to hook that up to where the ground is, where the stator is grounded to. And what we read is somewhere in the sunlight here is about 190. So specifications are 120 and 180. I'd say that's in the ballpark. That looks okay. The second test is for R times 100, and that is supposed to be 32 to 80, and that's the yellow lead. So I'm just going to switch this, and I need to re-zero the meter, and I need to put it on R times 100. So I'm going to ground the lead again and zero my meter. And we got 0 ohms. All right, so I've got it on the black and yellow into ground, and I'm reading around 10 ohms. Book value says 32 to 38, so we're way off on that. Now, I tested the factory one that was, replaced for some reason, and it is in spec. It falls right into that perfect range. The next test I did was I did a DVA output, and that was for the stator high speed, and I get virtually nothing. I'm supposed to have 150 to 300 on the low side. I get like 10. And then I get nothing on the high side. So this stator is not creating the voltage that's required for this ignition system. So we're going to swap it out and put the original one back in, because it ohms out all right, and then we'll see if that gives me spark. So there's what we found so far, is we found out that stator doesn't meet specification, and it does not put out the voltage that's required to fire the coils. So we're going to swap that out. Hey, it's Ted here. I'm getting ready to take this apart to fix this stator that's no good. No spark, no start engine. This is a 2-stroke 15 horse Merc, 2005, so let's go at it. 10 millimeter, we're going to take the pull start off. I've already got 2 of the bolts out. There's a shift linkage piece here you got to take off. I'm going to pop that out. I want to leave that right there so I know to put it back. Also has the fuel line on it. I don't have to take that off because I don't need to do anything except next get the flywheel off. So I'm going to take the flywheel nut, take that out, get a puller, and pop that off next. Okay, this is 22 millimeters. Take that flywheel nut loose, and then I'll get the puller and take that out. All right, I got the puller on here with the 3 bolts, and I'm just going to pop this flywheel off. There it goes. That was it. So this has been off before. I like to leave the nut on the flywheel just to protect the threads. Once it pops loose, I'm going to take the nut right off and pull the flywheel off. Right. So a 5/16 socket driver I like to use, and the other thing I like to do when I put these back on is I like to drop a blue Loctite on the thread so they don't back off because they're under the flywheel. I'll look up in the book and see what the torque spec is, and I'll torque them to that torque spec because I want to make sure that they're tightened down properly. Again, I don't want any of these bolts to back off and damage, you know, the flywheel or the stator, the replacement when we change it. So I'm going to clean those bolts off with a little carb cleaner, brake clean, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a drop of Loctite on them. Alright, I'm getting ready to put the stator back on. I got it in place, and I'm going to put a little blue Loctite on these bolts. Okay, I got my torque wrench set at 40. There's one, there's two, and there's three. Next is the flywheel. Flywheel gets torqued on to 50 foot-pounds. So now I'm going to torque the flywheel nut to 50 foot-pounds. There we go. So we've got great spark in the top cylinder and weak spark or partial spark in the other. So hopefully the video shows it. It's intermittent. So it's an intermittent misfire on that bottom cylinder. So now we got to figure out, is it a coil? Is it a switch box? Is it a trigger? So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. So no spark in all cylinders. Guy changed everything. I put the original stator back in because the stator didn't ohm out and it didn't create any AC voltage. Can't be the stator, because if you lose the stator, you lose both cylinders. So we're down to either a switch box or a coil. So I'm going to do a DVA test on the coil now, because I want to see what the output of the switch box is to the coil. If I have a weak output to the coil, then I know it's a switch box. If I have a hot output to a coil, then I know it's a coil. So let's do that next. Okay, magic target for Mercs is about 20 in the center, that little black arrow for this DVA meter. So when I pull it over, and again, this is not an electric start engine, so I'm probably never going to get there. If I had electric start, it would build, and stay. So what I'm going to try and do with the spark plugs out is I'm going to pull it over as quick as I can and look at the meter. I'm on the cylinder with hot spark right now, so we're going to look and just see what a hot spark produces. So let's see. Good hot spark. So I'm getting up there pretty close, you know, so I'm happy with that. So let me just switch over to the coil that's got weak spark and let's see what happens. And remember, this is intermittent. Okay, so with intermittent, I'm getting about 900 volts. So I doubt it's a trigger, because if I had any trigger signal, it would just charge each time. So the only other thing I'm thinking is maybe the coil's bad. What I ended up doing was simply switching the two leads here on the coil. So I swapped these two, swapped them over. So I swapped this side to this side and this side to this side. So it's out of time. It's, you know, the timings are 180 degree off. But what I'm trying to determine is if this coil fired with this input from the switch box, if I took this lead, which is the output of the module, and I switched it, which I just did, and the switch box is the issue, then I'll have spark on this side, but I won't have spark on this side. So let's see what happens. All right, so you can see I have spark here, and we'll actually no spark in this one. Okay, so it has switched. So that means that the switch box is the issue. So I'm gonna switch the switch box out to one of the ones that he has here, and hopefully I get spark in both cylinders, or I need a factory switch box. Okay, I swapped out the switch box. Let's see if we got spark now. Yes, that's much better. Okay, so now we got good spark in both cylinders. Now we can put it in the test tank and adjust the carburetor and check all the synchronization. And it's the moment we all been waiting for. Let's see what happens. I think it runs. Like I said, I think it's adjusted a little bit wrong, so we'll make some adjustments here. That's good. The cables are adjusted, right? Here, I just finished this 15 horsepower Merc 2-stroke, and I set base time in by the factory spec 8 and wide open at 36. So with a test light, you have to set it at 8 degrees at idle and then adjust your idle mixture and speed to the designated RPM in the book. So I just wanted to have you take a look at the marks, and I painted them on the flywheel so we could see them. So over here we got the two marks. One is at 8 degrees and the other one is at 36. And I usually go just a hair under 36 when I'm holding it at wide open. So at idle with a stop, you're at that 88 degrees. That is your adjustment here on this screw is idle, and then wide open is this screw. And then I've Loctited that so that hopefully nobody messes with it in the future. So hopefully that takes care of everything. Seems to run fine, and hopefully he enjoys the summer. If you like the video, please hit that like button and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.